the letter that never came, and sat in the quiet of her small living room, surrounded by walls that had witnessed years of her life. The late afternoon sun filtered through the thin curtains, casting a soft golden glow, but its warmth didn't reach her heart. Her fingers traced the edges of an old shoebox sitting on her lap, worn from years of use. Inside lay neatly stacked letters, each one a fragile connection to people she had once been close to, but the one letter she longed for was missing. The one from her sister, Rachel. Rachel. Even her name sent a wave of conflicting emotions through Anne. They had once been inseparable, their bond as strong as only sisters can share. Growing up in a small, tight-knit family, they had been each other's world. Rachel, with her quick smile and bright laugh, was the younger sister and had always protected, always guided. But things had changed. What had started as a small disagreement years ago had grown into a deep chasm, an argument that neither of them knew how to resolve. Words had been exchanged, sharp and biting, and neither had known how to take them back. And couldn't even remember the exact moment the rift had formed, but she remembered the anger. And she remembered the silence that followed. It was the silence that hurt the most. Rachel had moved away, both physically and emotionally, leaving and to wonder what had gone so wrong. And had written letter after letter, trying to explain, trying to make sense of it all, hoping to rebuild the bridge between them. She had waited patiently, believing that surely Rachel would respond. After all, they were sisters. How could Rachel stay away? But the response never came. Not one letter, not one word. Anne's fingers trembled as she picked up one of the old letters in the box, a birthday card from an old friend. She ran her thumb over the faded ink, trying to focus on the warmth of past connections, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Rachel. It had been over 5 years since they had last spoken. 5 years of birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings where Rachel's absence had felt like a sharp, unspoken wound. How many nights had Anne lain awake, wondering if Rachel thought about her too? How many times had she rehearsed in her mind the things she would say if she ever saw her sister again? She had written so many letters to Rachel, letters of apology, of regret, of love, but every one of them had gone unanswered. The mailbox, once a symbol of hope, had become a daily reminder of the empty space where her sister should have been. She closed her eyes, the weight of those unanswered letters pressing down on her chest. The truth was, and had been waiting too long, waiting for Rachel to be the one to reach out, to acknowledge the pain they both carried, and had spent years hoping for that one letter, that one apology, that would fix everything. But it never came. The ache in her heart grew heavier with every passing day, and she realized she had been frozen in place, trapped by her own need for resolution. She was waiting for something that might never come, and in doing so, she had allowed her life to pass by in a blur of unanswered questions and unresolved hurt. And placed the old birthday card back in the box and stood up, walking slowly to the window. Outside, autumn leaves danced in the breeze, their vibrant colors fluttering to the ground. The world was moving forward, but she was stuck, caught in a loop of regret and longing. She wondered if Rachel was out there somewhere, living her life, moving on without her. A tear slipped down her cheek, and Anne didn't bother to wipe it away. She had spent so long trying to be strong, convincing herself that it didn't matter, that she didn't need Rachel's apology to move on. But deep down, she knew she did. She had been waiting for Rachel to fix it, to acknowledge the hurt, to say, "I'm sorry." But what if that never happened? And sank into the armchair by the window, her thoughts swirling. She remembered the last time she and Rachel had spoken, how Rachel's voice had trembled with frustration, how Anne's own anger had clouded her ability to listen. The words they had thrown at each other had cut deep, and Anne had always thought Rachel was the one who had walked away. But now, sitting here in the quiet, she wondered if she had walked away too, by letting her pride get in the way of reaching out just one more time. 4 years, she had waited for Rachel to make the first move, but what if Rachel had been waiting for her? The thought sent a fresh wave of sadness through her. What if both of them had been waiting, trapped in their own hurt and pride, letting the years slip by without realizing that neither was willing to take the first step? Anne's heart ached as she thought of all the moments they had missed. Birthdays they should have celebrated together, holidays they should have shared, late-night conversations that should have been filled with laughter instead of silence. They had lost so much time, and for what? A misunderstanding that had spiraled out of control? Anne stood up suddenly, the weight of her realization pressing heavily on her chest. She couldn't change the past. She couldn't undo the hurt or take back the things that had been said. But maybe, just maybe, she could change the future. She had been waiting for Rachel's letter for so long, waiting for her sister to say the words she needed to hear. But she didn't need a letter. She didn't need Rachel's permission to move forward. With a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in years, Anne walked over to her desk and sat down. She pulled out a sheet of paper, not to write to Rachel this time, but to write to herself. "Dear Anne," she wrote, "I forgive you. I forgive you for the mistakes you made, for the things you said, and for the time you've spent waiting for something that might never come. I forgive you for the years of regret, for holding on too tightly to the hope of an apology that may never arrive. I forgive you for expecting Rachel to fix something that maybe both of you broke." As she wrote, Anne felt something inside her shift, a deep sense of release. She didn't need Rachel's letter to heal. She could forgive herself, and in doing so, let go of the past that had held her captive for so long. By the time she finished writing, the room had grown darker, the sun dipping below the horizon. Anne placed the letter on her desk and leaned back in her chair, feeling lighter, as if a weight had finally been lifted from her shoulders. She didn't know if Rachel would ever reach out, and maybe that was okay. Maybe the letter she had been waiting for would never come. But in her heart, she had found something more important: peace. And that was a letter she could write for herself. The next morning, Anne woke with a new sense of purpose. The world outside was still turning, and she was ready to turn with it.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.